everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Disney Resorts Podcast. My name's Kenny Hayes, and I am joined alongside, as always, by the one, the only, Walt Ramirez.
Hey, Ken, how are you tonight?
How are you? Good evening, good sir.
Good evening. I'm doing well.
So, folks, we have a great show lined up for you this Sunday. First, some DVC news. Yes, 2 episodes in a row, and we are talking DVC. First, some updates coming out of the Polynesian Tower. You're not going to want to miss that. And we want to jump back and dive a little bit back into what we discussed on the last episode. A little more news coming out of Fort Wilderness Lodge. The changes that are coming there via DVC. After hours events at select parks at Walt Disney World have just been announced. We will have that information for you. A sweet treat coming to EPCOT. We're going to dive into that. And maybe one of us here will be able to try it real soon. Stick around. More changes coming to Cinderella Castle after the 50th anniversary celebration has now ended. You're not going to want to miss that. Then we have not one, but 2 dining reviews from Walter's most recent trip to Walt Disney World. He had a nice lunch at the San Angel Inn, located over in the Mexico Pavilion. And then, of course, he had a nightcap over at Chef Art Smith's, located in Disney Springs. So, folks, before we start the show off, do us a favor. If you're watching us over on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and as Walter always says, share with a couple friends.
Not that easy, huh?
It's not that easy. I lost it. I lost it. I lost the mojo today.
You're
so,
allowed.
Walt, yeah. So, everybody, Walter and I were talking. The article recently came out. Something pretty interesting about the tower over at the Polynesian Resort, regarding DVC. Walt, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So there was an article that was just published regarding the Polynesian Tower and the public offering statement that was put out. And apparently it looks like from the legalese that's in the statement that the Polynesian Tower will be sold as a separate contract. It will not be bundled with the Polynesian Villas and Bungalows. So if you own at the Polynesian Villas and Bungalows, you will not have the 11-month booking window open to you for the new Polynesian Tower. And also one of Ken's favorite things, that it appears that there will be restrictions similar to the Riviera. So it looks like that resort will be a Polynesian Tower only resort, just like Riviera is only a Riviera resort if you have points there. Ken, what do you feel about that?
I'm not shocked at all. First, I'm not shocked with if this language is correct that we're reviewing in this article. Like Walter just said, it's basically referring to it as its own contract. It will be its own resort. So, but I get it. I completely understand it. You know, I believe the Polynesian Villas and Bungalows took effect, I believe, in 2014. I think it was right around that area. So you're pushing the 9-10 year mark already. So if you sell the tower brand new and not an extension of the original Polynesian side, there's another 50 years. It's business, people. Like it or not, they're locking people in for 50 years. And like Walter also said, the restrictions that came around, like with Riviera, they're now doing them over in the towers at Disneyland. I mean, the tower at Disneyland.
Yes.
If you buy and you sell, whoever buys it can only use it at that resort. And I think that is their mantra. That's their way to go for the future. Like it, don't like it. That's just the way DVC is right now. Now, we talked about it in the last episode. I think that it is hurting them. I think it is, if it's not one, it's 1A of why, say, Riviera's hasn't sold out yet. We'll see. Disneyland is a completely different, that's a horse of a different color. I don't think they'll have any issues selling out that tower there. But yeah, well, I'm not surprised. One thing I'm a little shocked with is that also in that reference of the Polynesian Tower is the word reflections was mentioned.
Yes,
So reflections may or may not be dead in the water.
correct. So this was a project that was kind of floated out there
Hmm.
prior to COVID, about a DVC project being built. I believe, if I could be wrong about this, but it was supposed to be near the Wilderness
Yeah, it
Lodge
was out there. It was out in that area. Yes.
in that area, right? So now, according to the public offering statement, it does mention the Reflections project, and the author speculates about that.
Hmm.
Could the Reflections Tower project someday be revived? And could DVC be planning to bundle the Fort Wilderness cabins with Reflections?
Oh.
Now, you and I talked about this after the last show because we were a little bit surprised about some of the feedback we received from some of our listeners, because they obviously are very passionate about Fort Wilderness. I personally did not realize that. I've never stayed there. So there's a tremendous following for Fort Wilderness, and people are quite upset about the cabins going away and being, I guess, taken over by DVC as a DVC project. I can't imagine now if I mean, obviously this is just speculation, but there
Hmm.
are legal papers that were filed. Um, if this comes to fruition, what could this mean? Like, is there enough land out there to build a tower, and what kind of a monstrosity would that look like for folks who have very passionate views on the the way the cabins are, how they feel for for a family to go
Hmm.
out on vacation in that type of an environment, and now you're adding this, potentially, this building, this tower. Do you feel that at some point that could happen, and like, how would that look? I mean, would are you going to still have cabins that are going to be set back? Because realistically, really, if you think about it, our speculation in the previous episode was, are they going to keep the cabins and just refurbish them? But if you follow this story, it appears that's not going to be the case at all. It looks like there's going to be, massive demolition going on.
Yeah, you're right, Walt. Since our last episode, I've been reading more and more articles about it, and it is new cabins are coming.
Yeah.
Very eco-friendly, and if you look by the artist rendering, they're kind of that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm even saying this right, and I'm not into design, but like that eco-friendly, modern, woodsy kind of look to it.
Yeah.
And like you said, some of our listeners already commented, reached out, and just reading some of these other articles and seeing the comments under them. I always knew that Fort Wilderness had a following.
Hmm.
I know people that have campers and they drive their campers down there all the way up from New Jersey, like us. Um, but yeah, they're losing their minds.
Yeah.
I mean, they're losing their minds over the changes right now, via DVC. Can you imagine if they were to ever put, like this article speculated, and people out there, just relax, it's all speculation. If they were to build a tower, something from the Reflections on that property, there might be an all-out war. There might be an all-out war. They'll be on the golf carts, because I know, like during the holidays, they have the golf carts and they go through because everyone decorates.
Yes.
Uh,
That I did know.
yeah. So I mean, like, but you and I have spent very limited time at Fort Wilderness.
Correct.
Besides going to Pioneer Hall, seeing a good show, seeing the Hoop De Doo review. You have Trails End down there.
Hmm.
But yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know how well this is going to go over in the non DVC side of Fort Wilderness.
Yeah, I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised.
Hmm.
But this kind of it caught me because, and we're going to talk about this in the next topic about the continuing monetization of it. But I
Hmm.
never really envisioned that they would take it to the next level with DVC.
No, me either.
DVC for me, I don't know about for you, but I always envisioned, okay, they build up, on a property that they have and they build something. This is where they basically had an existing accommodation and they decided we're gonna take over. We're gonna just
Hmm.
like eliminate it completely. This is a moderate, correct, for a family, a moderate resort.
Yeah, the cabins fell under the moderate level, and that was
Okay.
besides French Quarter. That would have been the only place I never stayed on the moderate level.
Okay. I mean, do you envision down the road where this could continue to spread? Like, can you see this going to like maybe like a Port Orleans where they decide, oh, we're going to turn Port Orleans into DVC?
The speculation has always been, and it's just a rumor, speculation, but how nice the Grandestino Tower came out at
Hmm.
Coronado has always since it has opened. It has been the talk of the town that if DVC were to enter the moderate realm, that's where it would enter. So DVC may not be entering originally into a moderate level at Grandestino Tower. However, I would not be surprised if Grandestino Tower is next.
Hmm.
I would not be surprised
Yeah.
at all because people love it. I have a friend of mine at work who stayed there, said it's very nice. I've seen multiple pictures. I've seen video of vlogs of those rooms. Very, very nice. It has that little bit of a corporate to it, but it's still
Right.
very nice. And you just dine there over at Toledo.
I
Did I
did.
say it right?
Yes, you did. You got it right.
So you think about it, Walt. You got a great restaurant right at the top
Yeah.
with some nice views. Okay, they're not California Grill views, but they're still a nice view.
Yeah. Still very nice.
You got a beautiful resort that they did over there,
Hmm.
and I think they want to. It'd be a perfect place. It's kind of out of the way, so you never know. I mean, if they're doing it here, and I understand the cabins are a big hit over at Wilderness Lodge.
Hmm.
So I think this was their next way into getting, continuing with that vibe and saying, "Hey, we'll do it with the cabins. Let's see what we got."
Do you think
So,
this is a business strategy for the future for them?
well, you and I, even talked years ago because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Walt. Before Riviera, the early stages of Riviera, when that was still being talked about, long before it was built, when you and I first started going down together, I could remember people talking, and I think you even mentioned to me that there were rumors about being DVC building a moderate resort. And then of
Hmm.
course Riviera is not.
Correct.
But I remember that being a talk, and that was over 10 years ago. So why
But
not?
here's the thing, you're mentioning a moderate resort. They're building on a moderate resort property, but they're not
Hmm.
turning it into a moderate resort. They're making it,
Yes.
there's nothing moderate about DVC. DVC
No.
is a long it's a I would call it a premium stay. It's
Hmm.
not a moderate level room or a stay, and you're turning it also into a long-term vacation
Hmm.
for people, long-term plans,
Hmm.
future plans, and I'm wondering if this is the way they're going, because if you think about it, they're saving quite a bit of money not having to build new properties and new buildings, although they are building the Polynesian Tower.
Hmm.
But you're if you're just building on something that's already existing and turning it into more of a high end long term cash cow for them, which is what it ends up being,
Yes.
maybe this is a long-term strategy for them. Maybe they're thinking that the future is not the, you know, the come to Disney for, like you and I come to Disney for
Hmm.
3 or 4 days. They're thinking more of a, the families that are gonna come for a week, and they're gonna come maybe once or twice or sometimes maybe even 3 times a year if they can, with DVC points, and just kind of stretch out that DVC umbrella because you don't have the land anymore that you really can build on. So we're going to just build on what is an existing property already. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there, but it just seems like that's the direction they're headed.
I I agree with you. I do agree with you because you look at before we wrap up this segment, um, people from Europe who are DVC, they come for 2 weeks.
Hmm.
If you're traveling, across the pond, you're not coming here for 5, 6 days.
Right.
And even though I hear a lot of conversations, even on my trip in January, when I was outside the bar, outside your favorite resort, the Beach and Yacht Club. What is that?
Hmm.
The Havana bar, right at the. I believe
The
it's the Havana bar.
No, it's not a Vanna. It's I can't think of what
I
it
can't think of
is.
the name right now, but I was enjoying a nice drink with my wife there, and I heard this
Cabana
couple. They
Bay.
were from Green.
Cabana Bay,
What?
I think.
Yeah.
I think
So
it's
I had as a couple, an older couple from up in the Green Bay area. They ran into it, and they were here for like 10, 12 days. Just trying to escape the dreadful winter that we all do, and they get it worse than us.
Mhm.
So yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. And like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but with some of them lowering the points for new people to buy in direct is a sign that of the times. Interest rates up, people are not spending as much. So they're trying to get something going again by lowering the points, maybe going, I want to see what the points numbers are for Fort Wilderness Lodge. That's what I like to see. I can't wait till that comes out.
Yeah, that's gonna be
What it's
interesting.
going to be a night.
Very interesting.
Hmm. So, all
Yep.
right.
So moving on to the next news topic. We just saw an article drop about park hours are being slightly extended through in the month of May by about on average about an hour per park.
Okay.
Some instances it's an early open where it's a half hour prior to park opening, but
Hmm.
most of them are extended on the back end for evening hours on most of the parks. What I did find interesting, though, with that article is how the after hours events are scheduled in June, July, and August. And these are at EPCOT and at in the month of May and June at Hollywood Studios. Um, Ken and I have talked about things that
Hmm.
pre-pandemic that have never come back, and this could be added to the list of the extended hours for guests that used to be quote unquote free, where
Hmm.
you could go for an additional 3 hours at the end of the night. That has gone away completely, and it will probably never return. In fact, I could probably guarantee that that'll never return just by looking at these after hours events and seeing what they're going for. So on average, anywhere between $139 to $129 per person per night for these events. The Holly those are the Epcot events. The Hollywood Studios events are $149 per person. If you're a DVC member or an annual pass holder, the Epcot price drops down to $99 a night. So Ken will be saving. And The Hollywood Studios events for annual pass and DVC are at $119 a night. So there's a lot to unpack here, so I won't like beat a dead horse. But my issue with this, and it was my issue also on my previous trip, um, that the continuing and ongoing price changes. The whatever day of the week, depending on how busy we are, is one price. Then it changes hour by hour, day by day. event by event. I mean, it boggles the mind. Back in the day where you could count on a price. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
like you always say, if you're going to charge for something,
Just charge it.
just charge it. Give me a price. If I want to buy it, I'll buy it. If I don't want to buy it, I won't buy it. But I just don't understand why an EPCOT event that's exactly the same event is $139 one night, and then another night it's $129.
Mm-hmm.
And then Hollywood Studios, because I guess there are more rides and it's a little bit more popular park, we're going to bump that up to $149. I mean, it is, to me. I don't know how you feel about this, Ken, but for me, it's just really, really annoying, and it just cheapens the product. I don't know. I don't know how you feel, but whenever I just want to go take a shower, because I just really, it makes me feel dirty. It really
Don't
does.
shower right now, Walt. We're on the air.
I mean, it
But
just does. I mean, like, I'll give you an example real quick. Where Genie Plus, when I was on vacation,
mm-hmm.
when I first got there, the first couple of days, it was $22.
Mm-hmm.
By the end of the vacation, and I was only there for 5 days. By the last 2 days of my vacation, it was up to $29. So it started at 22, went to 29. I, I mean, like, what are you doing? I just don't understand. I just don't understand it. It cheapens the product.
Well,
it really does.
think about this, Walt. They just continue to add on more and more after hours events, right? Now, pre-pandemic, they did have after hours events. So Walter and I understand that. And they charged a price back then. And I was okay with that.
Right.
Totally fine with that. However, you continue to add these, and not beating a dead horse, because you know how Walter and I feel. But 129, 139, okay, DVC annual pass holder. That's a pretty decent discount.
Yeah.
But remember, people, okay, we're probably going to drink the Kool-Aid, but this used to be free. Free. No matter where you stayed. They're basically turning, besides if you stay at a deluxe resort on select nights, everything is an after hours event now, which you have to pay for.
Right.
And it just ticks you off because it was free. 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 Thank God I spelled it right. I was thinking about it in my head. I was like, don't mess that one up.
I was getting worried there for a minute. I didn't want you to add an extra R in there.
But like you said, Walt, how do you charge 129 and then the very next day it's 139? And I understand because it's their crowds and they know when there's going to be more people. But like you and I talk about all the time, that's like me going to Applebee's Monday through Thursday, and I'm going to order the steak at $20. But Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's now $25. Why? Yeah. Just because it's busier. That's right. Why. That's exactly what they're doing.
Right. Disney has turned themselves into a gas station. They're like a
pretty
gas
much.
Station.
Yeah.
The price just keeps changing.
They should have the sign like the gas stations. I know most of them are digital now, but when you used to see the guy holding the thing up to change the numbers every day? Yeah, that's the sign they need outside Disney. Just changing the Genie Plus sign.
That changes the price as often as as Disney does. It's just so, it's kind of sad in a way. But
think about it, though.
They're getting it because
but they are.
People are buying this stuff. And you mentioned about the after hours. Yes, they did have after hours events pre-COVID, but those events were quote unquote VIP events. Yes. Where you actually made it made you feel special to go to those events. You had like the dessert parties and those type of events where it wasn't a shakedown. This is just a money shakedown. Okay, if you want to come to the park late at night and you want to ride rides, it's going to cost you.
Yeah, and you're not getting anything else besides them opening the gate and letting you in.
Right. And the funny thing is, if just to back up slightly, where they extended the hours that they're extending, they're not extending them at all, actually, because they're only like, for example, Magic Kingdom, they're extending it. They call it extending to 11 p.m. Well, they used to be open till 11 p.m. all the time anyway. Matter of fact, they used to be open till midnight. Now they cut the hours down to 10, and now they quote unquote are extending them to 11. So they're just bringing them back to where they used to be.
Mhm.
And the same goes for Hollywood Studios. It went from 9 p.m., which is very early in my opinion for that part to
Mhm.
close.
Yep.
They're extending it to 10 p.m. And
Mhm.
that's just so that they can then sell the extended hours events. I mean, I just it again, we complain, but we have no
We'll
right to
we'll be there.
complain because
Yes.
people are buying them and they're selling out and they're making a
Yes.
killing on this. So,
And we're not saying it's not worth it. If you want to pay and you want to skip the line and you want to enjoy a park at very low crowds, then by all means do it.
absolutely.
It's just, and I know people, you're beating a dead horse. Yeah, but just remember 3 short years ago, it was FREE.
It was.
And now
Yeah.
it's 139, 129. So,
Yep.
but enjoy it. But what we're
Yeah.
just getting at is, like Walter said, it cheapens it. It feels like a money grab because they're literally just opening the gates and letting you come in, and you're getting nothing else besides low crowds. When it used to be a perk because you would get something, they would have events, special characters, all that kind of stuff, and it made like a good buildup. Like, hey, I spent $139 a piece, but look what I got. You
Right.
know, all this cool stuff, and now it's literally like, just mosey on in.
And I'll tell you what else you made a great point there. One of the other things that affects as well is crowd levels.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a snowball effect
Mm-hmm.
because you have now condensed your operating hours down, which now condenses your ride times and activities down.
Mm-hmm.
So now your crowds are going to not be able to be stretched out. In the past, you could go to a park in the morning, and as the day got busier, you could say to yourself, well, I'll go back to my room and enjoy the pool and relax, and I could come back at the end of the night where it may not be as crowded and I could still get my rides in.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that anymore. Now
Nope.
you say to yourself, well, gee, I wonder why every ride is an hour long. Well, it's an hour long because the park's not open as long as it used to be, and people
Nope.
feel a need to have to stay there all day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's causing that's another issue all by itself that is occurring, and I'm sure they knew that. And then now they throw another thing into the mix is, oh well, the park reservation system, because we need to have park reservations to control crowds. Well, you wouldn't need that if you just kept your parks open later like they used to be. So, um again, that is just, those are people in corporate who said, hey, we got to figure out how to squeeze every penny out of every minute that we're open. Right now it's working for them, but I think eventually this is going to come back to bite them
Something's got to
down the
give,
road,
but
you know,
we say that
because
all the time
eventually
and they sell
people
out.
people are eventually going to get tired of it, and when it happens, it usually happens quickly. So I hope that they see it coming before it you know catches them by surprise.
Yeah, I agree.
um
I agree.
so moving on to a happier story.
Yes, this looks good.
Over at Connections Cafe at Epcot, there is a perfect sovereign waffle bite that has come out to commemorate the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 that has just hit theaters this past weekend. It's a mini liege waffle
Mm-hmm.
with a red berry sauce. On my next trip, I may be trying to get over there to try it. I don't know if I'm going to be venturing into any parks. I may or may not, probably not. But if I do, I will definitely try to get over to Connections Cafe and try that mini liege
And
waffle.
give us a little
So,
review. I don't know, Walt. Uh, this looks good.
yeah, it does look
It
tasty.
does look good. It does look
Yeah,
really
we'll try it.
tasty.
Have to give that a shot. What else you got for me?
All right. So I know when we discussed that the 50th anniversary celebration has ended, Walter and I talked about some of the things we would like to see stay from the 50th anniversary. However, one of the things I wanted to see stay on Cinderella Castle is not. The bunting is just about down on Cinderella Castle. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, there's only 2 turrets left that have the bunting left on it. So that's a little disappointing to me.
Mhm.
They said right now the color scheme is going to stay the same, which I know that you and I think it looks nice, but we are more of the original color pre the 50th than we are this one. So for right now, the color is staying. The rest of the 50th anniversary stuff is continuing to come down as we speak. And I believe once the last of the bunting has been
Mhm.
removed, I've seen pictures too that the moat is completely drained now. They have this temporary steps going down into there.
Yes. I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought that up because I
Hmm.
have a question for you. So, do you remember when you first started going to Disney?
Hmm.
Okay, and now this, and also when I can go back 20 years when I started going,
Don't date yourself.
um, and that I do not ever recall seeing the moat drained as often as it is now around the castle whenever there's any type of work. This was work that used to be done literally overnight,
Hmm.
or when there were no, when there were no guests in the park. And now it just seems like it's not in other words, they used to make a big deal about leaving construction equipment visible to guests. Now it's
Unless it
like a
had to
regular.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now it's a regular thing.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't recall ever seeing cranes being left in the moat like you see now in that picture, where in the past, unless there was some major construction going on,
Hmm.
like for example,
Yes.
what's taking place at Epcot,
Yep.
where there's a major
Yeah.
construction going
There's nothing
on,
you could do about that.
right? But in this case, where it's just you're taking down decorations,
Hmm.
basically. I just don't get it. I don't
Yeah.
get, like, they just don't care anymore.
But you are right though, and I agreed. So over the last 10 years that I have been going on a regular basis, it does
Hmm.
seem that you go there quite often, and even well before the 50th, that the moat would be down, dried up, and all that. So you are right. I do agree with you. It does seem like more than normal. But I understand why they have to do it this time because on the turrets, that gold leafing they
Hmm.
got wrapped around. I guess that will be the last of what has to be removed uh, from the 50th decorations. Once those last 2 buntings on the front 2 turrets are removed, that would be, I believe, the last of the stuff to come down.
No,
Um,
I understand why they have to
yeah.
get done, but it's just the way they're taking their time about it. If you look at when they do transitions for holidays,
Hmm.
whether it's bringing in Christmas trees into Epcot and decorations, it's literally done overnight with like a
Hmm.
massive team of people.
That's cool to
You
watch.
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me that they can't get a team of people to take down the decorations around the castle. And even if it takes you a couple nights, but before you open the park,
Hmm.
you put everything away and bring it out again the next day
Yeah.
so that
Some of the
it
stuff
doesn't.
I know, if you have those big, heavy cranes, there's nothing you could do about that. But I agree with you 100%, Walt, because I love watching the Christmas special each year about how I love that, and I've always wanted to do it, and I've missed it by a day or two twice. That transition from the last night of Halloween
Hmm.
to the next day you go to the park and it's
And
Christmas.
it's Christmas.
Yeah. Now I've been there this January. Magic Kingdom still had its holiday stuff up.
Hmm.
And then the next day I went to Magic Kingdom and it was all gone.
Yeah,
So that was cool to see, like, wow, like literally went by here less than 24 hours ago and it's all gone.
right.
So it is
That was
cool. Like you
very
said, that's
impressive.
remarkable how they just, as soon as that park closes, there's hundreds of people in there doing their thing while you're going to sleep,
Yeah.
But I agree with you, though. I agree with you on that. So the last of Cinderella Castle from the 50th anniversary is coming to an end. That's it.
I know you're sad.
I am sad. But it was time to go. Now they have the Dole 100th anniversary logos up everywhere.
Yeah.
So, all right, Walt, we have before we wrap up this week's show, we not have one, but we have two dining reviews from Walter's most recent trip to Walt Disney World. First, we are going to tackle his lunch review over at one of his favorite places to dine, the San Angel Inn, located in the Mexico Pavilion over in Epcot. So, Walt, I think I'm going to put up on the screen now. You had a blood orange margarita, and I believe Kendall had a pina colada. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Good,
Uh,
bad, or in between?
well, the blood orange margarita is my favorite drink. I've often talked about that. The only thing that's not my favorite is the price tag now that has substantially gone up. It started out years ago at around 12 to $13, and now it's all the way up to 18. So that's kind of steep for a blood
Yeah,
orange margarita, but it is a very, very good
but
drink.
you don't get it that often. Hey, quick question for you, while
Yeah.
if I may. The blood orange margarita. Can you also get that at La Cava Tequila?
Yes, that's correct. You can. You get the
Nice.
same drink at La
Mhm.
Cava Tequila. It's served in a different kind of glass than
Okay.
you get at the you're getting it in a margarita glass
Okay.
at the restaurant.
Mhm.
But you're not getting it in a margarita glass at La Cava Tequila. It's just in a normal, you know.
I keep saying it to you, and I don't make it over there, but on my next trip, I gotta get in it because that looks so good.
Yeah, it's
It
it's
really
it
does.
is very, very good. I highly recommend St. Angel Inn,
Mhm.
whether for lunch or for dinner.
Mhm.
For dinner, I mean, the atmosphere is the same. Obviously, it's just a very quiet, romantic atmosphere in there. You have that Mayan pyramid in the background, which is part of the ride there, and the atmosphere is really, really, really cool in there. We had the queso fundido as an appetizer. That was just amazing.
Looks good.
It's melted Monterey Jack cheese with chorizo, poblano peppers, and onions, and it comes with 4 flour tortillas, so you can divide that between 2 people pretty easily. And that appetizer is $15, which is not bad at all for the amount that you get. I had actually, my wife and I both had the ensalada Caesar, which is a Caesar salad, and you could add chicken or shrimp. I added chicken to mine. When you add the chicken, it's $6 additional to it. The shrimp is $8, and the salad itself is 18. But the what was impressive to me was the size of the chicken breast that they gave you. Now, normally,
It is big.
when you add chicken to a Caesar salad, you're going to get maybe a half a chicken breast
Mhm.
sliced up. This was a very large piece of chicken.
It was. It
Uh,
did. It looked good.
it was delicious.
Mhm.
It was well cooked, and it's basically a meal,
Mhm.
So, um, between that and the appetizer, I left full, and you could go either way with that. You could go lunch or dinner.
You've done
But
both, right, Walt? Lunch and
I've
dinner there?
yes, I've
Okay.
done both lunch and dinner, and I enjoy it either way.
Mhm.
It's a very it's a place where a lot of people won't think of that place to dine right off the top of their head. They
Mhm.
have so many other options in Epcot, and people always think of La Cava Tequila as a watering hole, and they think about more of Mexico as a
Mhm.
drinking place as opposed to a dining place. And I
Mhm.
think that it's an underrated restaurant. I think it's gotten some bad publicity in the past for whatever reason, and it's a really, really. I highly recommend Saint Angel Inn for dining, whether
Yeah.
either lunch or dinner. I don't think you can go wrong.
It's good to know. Like I said, well, I keep saying I'm gonna go there. I love the ambiance. I love when you go take the ride on the Three Cabaneros and you go right through and you can see the people dining and that. That's cool. Uh,
Yeah,
You
it
know,
is.
like we
It's
said in the last episode, people go, "Oh, when you go to Disney, why do you eat at the same places every time?" Because you don't get that here. You
right,
don't get that. It's not an
right.
Applebee's. I like
Yeah, yeah,
Applebee's,
exactly.
but it's
Yeah,
not. It's
there's no
yeah.
pyramid in
Yeah, there's
Applebee's.
no pyramid in Applebee's. Maybe a couple cans of whatever whatever you like to drink maybe on the table, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah,
That's
it's about, like you said, it's about the atmosphere. Um, I'll tell you, the one thing, real quick, this was in the previous episode, we talked about Epcot restaurants and the proximity of the seating.
yeah.
You run into the same situation
Mhm.
here. You are very, very close. But what's unusual about this restaurant, because of the dimmed lighting
Yeah.
and the atmosphere, it's not loud. It's very quiet in there. So
Mhm.
people have a tendency to
It
have a
is.
lower tone at the table. So you're not getting, it's not a very loud restaurant.
Mhm.
And that does help a little bit. So you're not having loud conversation, and you're not getting, again, the seating is the same. You still are very tightly packed in there,
Yep.
but it is slightly less annoying because it's not as loud.
Mhm. It is.
It's almost,
You are right though. It is fairly quiet for a restaurant,
it
especially
is.
in open air. Not it's not open air, but you know what I mean. It's
Yeah,
open to everything else.
it is. I think
Yeah.
it just has to do with the lighting. I think the
Yeah.
subdued lighting definitely changes people's moods
Mhm.
and calms people down. And I think it just that I think it helps.
Yeah.
And again, it is tight, but it's more tolerable than it is in other restaurants
Mhm.
for sure. So
All right. So
um,
you would definitely recommend for lunch and dinner the San
absolutely, hundred
Angelo.
percent,
Good.
100%. I would put Saint Angel in. I wouldn't put it ahead of Le Cellier, but I would
Mhm.
put it a close number two
Good to
on my
know.
list.
Good to know. All right. Well, so before we wrap, you had a nightcap over at Chef Art Smith's over
I
in
did.
Disney Springs. You want to walk us through what kind of drinks you had, adult beverages, and a couple of the snacks you had?
Yeah, so we had the deviled eggs, which is always a go-to.
It looks
Um,
so good.
and I had the sweet tea shine, which is one of my favorite drinks. It's a pre-made drink that they have, but it's like an iced tea. It's like a Long Island iced tea, basically. Is what I would equate it to. But it
It's
goes
good.
down too easy. Let's put it that way.
So you can have a few.
Yeah, you could have a few, and it's very delicious.
Mhm.
It does, you don't taste a lot of the alcohol in there.
Yeah,
It does taste a lot more like an iced tea, and it's delicious. And the deviled eggs are phenomenal. It's always, I mean, everybody knows about those.
they're lethal.
Yeah, they are. They're all amazing. And
I'm
we
looking at the
had
picture right
also,
now you sent me. I'm like, oh my god.
yeah, yeah, and you could also put up the picture. We had the hush puppies as well, which are
Yes.
also very good. I unfortunately don't have the price point on those right now,
Mhm.
but Ken will put
We'll put
those up
them up.
on.
Yep.
And but the deviled eggs, everyone knows about them.
They're so
They're,
big.
yes, they are. And it's a place where you can go to at the end of the night if you've had an early dinner,
Uh huh.
that you could just have that as a snack and have a couple of drinks. That's what we did. We had that, and we had the hush puppies, and we also had a slice of the vanilla. I believe it was like a vanilla cream or vanilla carrot cake
Yes.
that we had with a scoop of ice cream, and that was delicious also. Um, I've had dinner at Chef Art Smith's, and I've had lunch there before. And I will say that my review is, I prefer, and this is not a knock by any means because the
Mhm.
food is delicious, but I prefer to go there for appetizers as opposed to their regular entree, menu, because it's very filling.
Mhm.
And I once made the mistake of going there for lunch and
Mhm.
having a large meal that I normally
Me too.
wouldn't have had, and it was a 90-degree day outside. So walking out of there back to the parking deck to the car was not a fun experience because I was very, very full.
You should have ran.
Uh, yeah,
Could
yeah,
have
no.
emptied out.
So it's a great place, but personally, my preference for that place is more of a late night
Mhm.
snack and drink, place. And you can get, it's very difficult to get an ADR during the day for dinner
Mhm.
or for lunch. But if you go there later in the evening, you can pretty much walk up and get in. You probably will have to wait, 20 minutes to half an hour,
Yeah.
depending on how busy they are, but you will get in. And they have bar seating as well. So I would definitely give Chef Artemis a try if you're in the Disney Springs area, and give them a try, especially late in the evening. And even if you're not in the mood for deviled eggs, just to go there for some drinks, and just the atmosphere of the restaurant's pretty cool in there.
I couldn't agree with you more. But if you're gonna go, try the unless you don't like eggs, try the deviled
Well,
eggs.
it's
You're
true. I
not
mean,
gonna
some
regret it.
some people may
They may
not,
not. But you said it is
so
it has a good vibe. Disney Springs always has a good vibe. So definitely check it out. So before we wrap up this week's show, uh, we want to make a little announcement. We're going to have some great content continuing, and you can thank Walter for it. Walter, in the next few weeks, is going to be returning to Walt Disney World for several days. I think he is taking advantage of the most recent discounts that we talked about several shows ago.
yeah.
He is going to
Hmm.
be staying over at Yacht Club on Jelly. So
Yes.
between Walter's trip coming up in May, if I don't squeeze in a trip, I'm trying. I have a Vero Beach and Walt Disney World coming in July. So we have a
Mhm.
lot of great content coming your way over the next few months. So you're not going to want to miss it. Share us with a couple friends. Anything, Walt? Anything you got lined up yet at WW before we wrap up for the next trip?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a review for dinner at Cape May Cafe.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Dinner, right?
a dinner,
Dinner. Okay.
correct. So that was actually influenced by Denny Sunderly, who recently posted on her um, content page on YouTube a review of Cape May Cafe. I watched it, and I thought to myself, you know what, it convinced me to give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
She convinced me to give Toledo a shot, and then I'm probably going to end up going back there for dinner on this trip at some point.
So she's 1 for 1
Uh,
right now.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. She's doing better than the Yankees and the Mets are. Let's put
Oh
it that way.
God, yeah. Whew, let's not even go there.
Um, but I believe they're Oriole fans, so the Orioles are doing
They
pretty
are
well.
doing good.
But anyway, so I've got that. I may get over to Yachtsman
Mm-hmm.
Steakhouse, which I have never done. Well, I shouldn't say I've never done. I haven't been there in many, many years. And then most of the trip, we're doing a resort stay where we're just going to enjoy
Why not?
Storm Long Bay pool and plan on floating around in the lazy river for quite a while. But I'm going to try to get over to possibly try to get over to Trattoria Al Forno and try Ken's world famous lasagna that he loved.
Mm.
So give that,
Trattoria Forno.
and then because I would like to review it myself so that then we could see if Ken was accurate on that or not.
If you come back, Walt, and say it's trash, it's over.
No, I don't think I would do that.
I think you'll
And
like it
I
though.
may also take advantage of the extended, well, not the extended hours. Well, I guess it's extended hours, but it's um, the, uh,
The
resort
deluxe, the after
deluxe. I'm
hours if
sorry,
you get if you're staying
yeah,
at a deluxe resort.
yeah, the deluxe resort. Try to get over to Epcot and see if I can get on Guardians of the Galaxy again. And real quick before we wrap up, I did go see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 last night. And I will tell you, kind of disappointed. So
Oof.
if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want to hear any spoilers, then just shut us
Shut
off
off
right
now.
now. But I wasn't expecting a home run for this movie just
Mhm.
because normally by the time you get to a third movie, regardless of what it is, whether it was Pirates of the Caribbean or now this, the
Drawn
directors and the
out.
writers have a tendency to just run it into the ground for whatever
Mhm.
reason.
Star Wars.
And it's actually ironic because my wife and I one of the trailers before this movie, before Guardians, was the upcoming um um oh, blanking out on it.
Star Wars?
No, the
No.
one with Vin Diesel.
Oh, I can't think of it. I'm not a big movie person, so forgive me, everyone.
The
I can't help you, Walt.
Oh, I can't think of, but anyway, that franchise, and it'll
Hmm.
pop into my head. That
Oh,
franchise has been
Fast and
around forever.
Furious.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, there you go.
So it was another Fast and Furious
Yeah.
version, which
Oh,
is, I guess, like
Jesus.
number 15 or 16. I lose track. It's like, but the point is that those movies are entertaining, and they
Hmm.
keep putting them out because people, they fill the theaters, they make a
Yep.
killing, and as we've always said, the movies are simple and fun.
Hmm.
And this movie was a beloved franchise for the first two versions,
Yeah.
and with beloved characters, it has a tremendous, in my opinion, the best ride on Disney
I was just
property.
gonna say, and the best ride on property.
Best ride on property, and they just took it and just like blew
Mm.
it up. I know there's going to be people out there that are going to totally disagree with me, and that's fine. I personally did not like the ending. I did not like the soundtrack. The soundtrack in both of the first two movies was amazing.
Just like the
This
ride.
soundtrack, with the exception of maybe one or two songs, is leaves a lot to be desired. There's really
Hmm.
nothing memorable about the soundtrack. Um, and it was extraordinarily gory and violent for
Really?
this type of of a franchise that in the
Wow.
past
I'm
was never like
shocked.
that.
Mhm.
They all of a sudden decided to like amp up the gore and the violence in it.
Mm.
It just didn't make a lot of sense. It was completely unnecessary. 2.5 hours was also too long for this
Wow.
movie. There were parts of this movie that could have been cut out. And the big fanfare about, they kept dropping hints about possibly killing off some of the major characters. Well, I got to tell you, it didn't happen. All the major characters survived till the end. The storyline itself, it just didn't make a lot of sense. There's a part in the movie where they're on this space, the evil villain spaceship, and the evolutionary, and there's all these like children that are in like uh, going to be experimented on. I mean, it was just a bizarre, and then they have to be rescued. It was almost like a scene out of a concentration camp. I mean, it just was a bizarre
Yeah.
part of the movie. And then to have Drax the Destroyer, who is, Dave Bautista played a great character in this
Yeah.
in the first two. Um, and then at the end of the movie, he's going to be taking care of the children. And I was like,
That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, I understand where they were going with that, because in the first movie, he talks about how he lost his wife and his daughter,
Mhm.
and now he's going to be a dad again. But it was one of those like storylines where it just didn't make any sense to me. I
Mhm.
just didn't feel like that was necessary. This was it's a fun, goofy movie with a lot of great lines. A lot of the jokes in this movie didn't land. It almost felt forced.
Yeah.
So
But it still probably make a ton of money.
yeah, but it actually isn't making it. From what I just read,
Really?
it's going to fall short of what it normally
Was projected.
these movies normally would do.
So basically,
So
you're saying, Walt, is that you wouldn't go see it. You wouldn't recommend it.
like I said to my wife, I not only would I not go see it again, I wouldn't see it if it was on free TV like tomorrow. Like
That's
if it
not
was
good for
on,
them. That's
yeah, I
not good.
wouldn't go see it again. And again, I'm going to be in the minority. I know I am,
Mhm.
because I've read a lot of the reviews from people who watched it, and some people who thought this was like the greatest thing ever. But
Each his
again,
own.
this is just like The Sopranos, where
Mhm.
like some people thought that it was okay the way it ended, and
Yeah.
other people thought it was the worst thing ever. So again, this is, just like Seinfeld. When Seinfeld ended, most people were like, "Are you kidding me? This is the way you're going to end this?" And obviously, this is different. It's a movie.
Mm.
There's only three of them, but it could have been so much better, so much better. And again, it felt way short. And I'm getting tired of saying that about Disney.
Mhm.
I'm getting tired of saying it could have been so much better. I mean, how many things do we say, whether it's events, parks, restaurants, now movies, where it could have been so much better? I mean, we sat here and said Woody's Roundup Barbecue could have been so much better.
Yeah.
And now we're saying the same thing about, Guardians of the Galaxy. But anyway,
I'm just
that's my
hoping.
2 cents.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents review for the movie.
And my 2 cents before we wrap, everyone, is that just remember a lot of these movies took place prior to some of the people coming back. So hopefully in the next couple of years, we will see a difference. The change, the company's in a change right now. A lot of things are changing. So let's hope they are for the best. But that's disappointing because a lot of people love that movie, and it is what it is.
Yep.
So all right, Walt, good show as always. What do you think? Time to wrap?
Time to wrap up. It was fun. We had a great time, and
Yep.
hopefully, in the next show we'll hit on a couple of other topics on my last trip.
Yep. And then we'll be talking about your next trip.
On the next trip, yeah, we're gonna try to get on the next review. We're gonna try to get in some Trader Sam's
That's right.
video footage that we have as well
Yep.
from when I was there.
Yep. Exciting. All right, folks,
Yep.
that's going to wrap up this edition of the Disney Resorts podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. For Walt Ramirez, I'm Kenny Hayes. Take care, everybody.